Russell Brand is a British entertainer, and even if you don't know anything about him or anything he's been in specifically, you've probably seen something he's been in at some point. Movies like Get Him the Greek, Arthur, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Around 2010, this guy was in a ton of movies and was absolutely at the top of his game, acting in movies with big name actors. He also did voice acting in a bunch of Illumination movies like Despicable Me, Despicable Me 2, and Trolls. Pretty funny, I actually didn't even realize he was in these movies.
Groom, I want you to know that in spite of what happened today, to me you'll always be one of the greats.
Well, over the last few years, Brand has been on a little arc on YouTube of what has been described to me as InfoWars Alex Jones light. Basically talking about a lot of conspiracy theories regarding the government and wars and various world events. Probably for the best I don't get into the specifics here. I was not totally aware of how deep into this stuff he was, but I listened to this episode of Joe Rogan where they talked about super soldiers created from monkeys and machines that are like monkey cyborg soldiers. I mean, it's a pretty silly segment, and like I don't really think they super, believe in this stuff. But needless to say, the dude has an interest in underground sort of behind the curtain stories that he wants to expose and bring to the forefront.
Once, if that's what's being revealed, the truth is darker.
Yes, for sure. For sure they're trying to create super soldiers. Someone is trying to create some super soldier, some half chimp, half human, super intelligent, murderous thing that's powered by remote control.
That is not a good objective.
No.
I don't see a good outcome for this super intelligent, murderous, remote-controlled chimp being.
And as a result, he aligns himself with a lot of conspiracy theory figureheads. Now, I've always found these guys pretty interesting. People like Alex Jones are fascinating people who I get a real kick out of.
No, come on. You're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.
But the reason we're talking about Brand today is not because of something lighthearted, unfortunately. Let's turn that smile upside down, because today we're talking about Russell's alleged RAPE. Man, the amount of allegations out here is crazy. I feel like every day there's a new story of like X famous guy who's being accused by X amount of women. It's just a lot at this point. It's a little overwhelming. But Russell indeed has been hit by the allegations train. So all this came out because of an investigation by the Sunday Times, The Times, and Channel 4. And these are all British outlets as far as I'm aware. Now, all of this is detailed in a long article from The Times, which has this scary looking image of Russell at the top, sort of an edit of him with like red on one side and white on the other side. Very spooky. Now, before I get into this, it's worth noting Russell Brand has responded, and according to him, he's completely innocent. He's claiming that this is all basically the mainstream media smearing him as a result of him spreading truths about the world and the mainstream matrix sort of agenda.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Now, this isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack, and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received two extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play?
So basically with the first minute here, we have Russell saying he was very promiscuous while he was in the industry in Hollywood, but that every interaction he had was consensual and nothing bad happened during that time. And this is reflected in the characters he played, which were basically sleazy womanizers, kind of dumbass a lot of the time, driven entirely by this was like, a main sort of trope, a character type he played. But he says that this is not anything criminal. He says the media is lying about him basically, and he didn't do anything wrong.
Is there another agenda at play? Particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of, and we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out Russell, they're coming for you, you're getting too close to the truth, Russell Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles, Russell Brand's a conspiracy theorist, Russell Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. It's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean my voice along with your voice.
Now, there's undoubtedly a lot of major cringe from the media. Journalists suck. We've seen them come for YouTubers before, like Anthony Fantano trying to say he's pushing alt-right memes to his audience. We've seen it with PewDiePie, where they tried to make him out to be an anti-Semite. And these guys are benevolent, funny men who at the time were not talking about politics whatsoever. Russell Brand is someone who tries to seriously push his theories and thoughts about the world onto his audience. So off the bat, is there a media hatred of this guy? Yes, they're going to be biased against him. I mean, in every news article I've seen, they immediately open by talking about how he spreads misinformation, right? So there's obviously a little bit of bias against him. Russell Brand is someone who tries to seriously push his theories and thoughts about the world onto his audience and believes that he's exposing the truth. So off the bat, is there a media hatred? Yes. But whether that bias matters or not comes into if we're actually looking into these specific claims and what's going on here, right? Because if that bias is present and that bias completely affects how they cover the evidence at hand, then obviously, you could maybe paint this as a smear job. But if the bias is present and the information they present is 100% factual and there's nothing wrong with it, then there's not really much you can say. Like, they may not like him, but also they could be telling the truth. You know what I'm saying? And Russell doesn't really address these specific claims at all in his response. It's a pretty short video. It's like 3 minutes long. Certainly shorter than most e-celebrities slash YouTuber slash influencer responses to allegations. And there's no concrete refutes here about what happened. It's basically him saying that he's innocent and following that up by saying that the media is coming after him, just like Joe Rogan.
I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous consensual conduct in the past. What I seriously refute are these very serious criminal allegations. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack. Now, I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations, but I feel like I'm being attacked, and plainly they are working very closely together. We are obviously going to look into this matter because it's very serious. In the meantime, I want you to stay close, stay awake, but more important than any of that, if you can, please stay free.
So he's saying here that he doesn't want to get into it because it's a serious matter. I assume he means it's a legal matter by that, but I don't think he's being charged, and I don't think there's a lawsuit. But regardless of that, you know what? Benefit of the doubt. I guess he's saying that he doesn't want to accidentally contradict himself. Even though he believes he's in the right, he doesn't want anything to be taken out of context that could hurt him later on. And you know what? Fair enough. That seems like a decent way to handle it. I do wish he gave specific details on what happened here for my own content purposes, but if he doesn't want to do that, that's his prerogative. And as far as what actually happened, what is being alleged? The Times claims that they began looking into these allegations after hearing rumors from the UK comedy scene around Russell Brand, I guess from fellow comedians or something. And a lot of this behavior supposedly happened in Los Angeles starting after he moved out there in 2010, but a little bit of it was before, a little bit was after. But this stuff isn't like super old. It's like within 10 years basically, right? 10 to 15 years. So we've got the article right here. Once again, scary Russell picture right there. And I think it would make sense if we could just read through this article and see what they say. 4 women have alleged assaults between 2006 and 2013 while he was a presenter for BBC Radio 2 and Channel 4, and then an actor in Hollywood films. Others have made a range of accusations about Brand's controlling, abusive, and predatory behavior. Brand denied the allegations and said his relationships have all been consensual. The findings come from a joint investigation by the Sunday Times, the Times, and Channel 4 dispatches. One woman alleges that Brand RAPE'd her against a wall in his Los Angeles home. She was treated at a crisis center on the same day, according to the medical records. Text messages show that in the hours after leaving his house, she told Brand that she had been scared by him and felt taken advantage of, adding, "When a girl says no, it means no." Brand replied saying he was very sorry. A second woman alleges that Brand assaulted her when he was 31 and she was 16 and still at school. She said he referred to her as the child, Jesus, during an emotionally abusive and controlling relationship that lasted for about 3 months, and that Brand once forced himself down her throat, making her choke. She says she tried to push him off and she had to punch him in the stomach to make him stop. A third woman claims that he SA'd her while she worked with him in Los Angeles and that he threatened to take legal action if she told anyone else about her allegation. Jesus. The fourth described being SA'd by Brand and him being physically and emotionally abusive. All said they felt ready to speak only after being approached by reporters. Several said they felt compelled to do so given Brand's newfound prominence as an online wellness influencer with millions of followers on YouTube and other sites. So this is what I'm confused about. I guess why not just go to the police at the time? Were they afraid that he like controlled the police or something? I guess with that one girl, maybe she was afraid of some kind of legal action coming against her and she knew he had money, so she was afraid of that. But I feel like talking to the police probably would have been a good idea at the time. Just saying like, if this happens to you, talk to the police at the very least, file a police report. It will add some credibility to your story later on if you want to talk about it, right? Because those are the people that really need to handle situations like this, in my opinion. Not that you can't come out about it or talk about it, or that you shouldn't, because obviously if you believe he's going to victimize more people, that should be known. But just saying, talk to the police, okay? The others have accused him of physical and emotional abuse, harassment, SA, and bullying. Bullying, is that, I mean, I guess if it's included here, it makes sense, but I don't know. He bullied people. I don't really care about that. Most of the women who do not know each other have chosen to remain anonymous. So according to the Times, the women were not in like talks with each other. These were independent situations that they discovered. And the women were not like, you know, communicating about each other or anything. It wasn't like a planned op. The Times is claiming they're all independent actors who came out about these situations. So that was sort of established a pattern of behavior. Over the past few years, reporters have interviewed hundreds of sources who knew or worked with the brand. Ex-girlfriends and their friends and family, comedians and other celebrities, people who worked with him on radio and TV, and senior staff at the BBC, Channel 4, and other media organizations. Along with these interviews, reporters have seen private emails and text messages, submitted freedom of information requests, viewed medical and therapist notes, scrutinized Brand's books and interviews, and watched and listened to hundreds of hours of his shows on the BBC, Channel 4, and YouTube to corroborate allegations. So they did a full excavation of every single thing this guy has ever done. Brand, who is now 48, has managed to maintain his fame by the past 2 decades through reinvention. First as a stand-up comedian known for debauchery, before becoming a primetime Channel 4 TV host, BBC radio star, Hollywood actor, and most recently a wellness guru and anti-establishment influencer with millions of followers online. And just to give you guys an idea of how big this guy is, he has 6.6 million subscribers on YouTube, and this is not a dead channel by any means. Like, he's getting, you know, 500,000 plus views on average on every single video, if not more. Some of them get millions, which is pretty interesting. I didn't realize how big this guy was. Here we have him talking to Ben Shapiro. Here we have him talking about going on Fox News. Joe Rogan unmasks CNN's true agenda. I believe this is in regards to the ivermectin stuff from years ago. Here he is reacting to Joe Rogan again. It's pretty interesting to see the kind of arc this guy has taken, because I was under the impression that he was like a liberal guy a long time ago. I remember he did this one video with this guy named Mark Collette a long time ago, where he like sort of, I think Mark Collette was a part of the National Front, which I believe in England is like a far-right organization, basically like political party that was getting, you know, momentum in the late 90s and early 2000s. And he interviewed him, and that was pretty interesting. And back then, he was sort of coming from like the left-wing perspective from the media. And I guess now he's coming from, I don't know about right-wing, but he aligns himself more with right-wing people like Candace Owens and stuff like that. I don't know if he's a conservative. I would probably guess he's not really. Throughout his career, Brand's material has acknowledged his sex addiction and has often publicly joked about his predatory behavior. There were rumors of more sinister behavior said to be discussed as an open secret by senior TV and radio execs, and among female comedians who warned each other of his behavior, but the women involved previously felt unable to speak out. Their stories, now told publicly for the first time, shine a light on Brand's mistreatment of women behind closed doors and on the industries that enabled him. The Times and the Sunday Times gave Brand 8 days within which to reply to detailed allegations, including information to enable him to recall the alleged incidents. Lawyers for Brand initially said they were not in a position to provide any response to the allegations because we had posed a large litany of questions and had intentionally chosen to anonymize the names of the women. They characterized this as deliberate and part of a preconceived strategy aimed at damaging their client. They said that publication was a concerted campaign, and their client believes that there is a deeply concerning agenda to all of this, namely the fact that he's an alternative media broadcaster competing with mainstream media. Pressed to provide a full response, the same lawyers did not reply. So basically from the start, Brand's representation was saying like, hey, he's being attacked by the media because he's like sort of on this alternative media thing. He aligns himself with the intellectual dark web, and that's why people are coming after him. When given further opportunity to respond, Brand broadcasted a statement on his YouTube channel saying, amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. And that's the video that we just saw. He said his relationships have always been consensual. He accused the mainstream media of a coordinated attack and said there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives. The Sunday Times asked his lawyer for the evidence referred, but no answer was provided. This is what I'm curious about. Specifically in the video, he says that there are, you guys remember, there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradict the narratives. I'm curious who these people are. They could very well exist. I really just want to hear from them. That's all I'm saying, you know? Brand is currently in the middle of a stand-up tour. On Saturday, he arrived at the Troubadour Theatre in Wembley, northwest London, an hour late, with the crowd told he had been stuck in traffic. He briefly addressed the allegations at the start of the gig after seeing a woman holding a sign saying, "We stand by you, Russell. Stay strong, stay free, we love you." Brand said, "There's some things I cannot talk about, and hopefully you appreciate that I'm going to give you everything I've got." Man, I really want to see his full response response to this stuff. Imagine if he did like a podcast. Maybe that's not advantageous from a legal standpoint, but man, if he did a podcast or if he did some kind of big like exposed video, like imagine if he did like the quite response video, but for these women, that would be insane. I don't know if that's going to happen, to be honest. I think these accusations, based on what the media is saying, have more credibility. But one thing that is confusing is that we don't have anything in here coming specifically from the victims. That may be more in the documentary. For those who don't know, there's a documentary that was made about this. So far, this is all the journalist saying what someone else said, basically, right? He sent a car to my school to take me out of lessons. As her taxi approached Russell Brand's home, Alice remembers the driver begging her not to go inside. Recognizing the destination, he had started to ask questions. Alice admitted she was 16 and still in school. She says the driver replied that his daughter was the same age and entreated Alice. Please, I'm asking you not to go in there. You could be my little girl and I would want someone to do this for her. He offered to take her home without charge, but Alice insisted she was fine. Alice, whose name we have changed to protect her identity, now realizes that she wasn't fine. During a relationship that lasted for about 3 months when Brand was a BBC radio presenter, she says that he referred to her as the child and alleges that he became increasingly controlling and then emotionally and sexually abusive. Brand, then 30, sent a car to her secondary school to take her out of lessons and to his home, she says, and asked her to save his name in her phone as Carly to deceive her parents. Brand's management knew that he had a teenage girlfriend and advised him not to be seen with her in public, she says, okay. Alice alleges that Brand once forced himself down her throat, making her choke, and that after trying to push him off, he only stopped after she hit him in the stomach. She says she was visibly upset about the incident. Brand made his name in comedy in the early 2000s, and also achieved the status of London's most lascivious Lothario. After he gave up drugs in 2002, Brand filled that void with sex. In 2005, he received treatment for sex addiction at a clinic in the US. His womanizing ways, he once said he could sleep with 80 women in a month. How do you even have the time for that? Like, don't you have like a job? Don't you have stuff to do, bro? Saw him crowned Shagger of the Year by The Sun 3 times. Have relationships with some of the world's most beautiful women, including Kate Moss, and marry the pop star Katy Perry in 2010. They divorced in 2012. I forgot they were married. He was married to Katy Perry, like the biggest pop star in the world at the time. I forgot this completely. How did this completely slip my mind? I mean, here they are together walking on like the red carpet or whatever. So this is just how famous this guy was. 10 years ago, he was married to like the biggest pop star in the world, and now he's like on alternative radio doing this kind of thing. I'm curious if that was like something he wanted to do or if he felt pressured to go there because the industry didn't like him anymore. But this guy is like crazy famous. When Alice met Brand in 2006, he was becoming a household name as the host of Channel 4's Big Brother's Big Mouth and a BBC radio presenter. She was 16, recovering from an eating disorder, and had never had a boyfriend. He approached her in Leicester Square after she had been shopping at Topshop at Oxford Circus, and he had been working at a nearby studio. Alice recognized him from TV and had previously seen him do stand-up. He took my shopping bags from me, which was quite disarming, and proceeded to go through my purchases and critique them. And then he took one dress out and said to me, "You're gonna wear this on our date next week." Brand asked her to dinner, and she later told her mother, who then made Alice text Brand to tell him her age, which was 16, I guess, at the time, assuming it would put him off. It didn't. Alice's mother was very upset, but did not feel she could control who her daughter met. What do you mean you can't control who your daughter meets? Dude, she's a child, bro. You can't control who your daughter meets? What is wrong? Yes, you can. You say, don't go hang out with that guy. You're grounded. You take away the Xbox, okay? You own her. I mean, this is a girl who had an eating disorder, and now you think it's a good idea for her to date like a 30-year-old man when she's 16, bro? What is wrong with his mother? I remember wearing a red wiggle dress and big platform shoes and had my hair blown out and was wearing makeup, but I didn't look like a woman by any means. I was a child that had gotten dressed up for dinner. On their first date, she claims Brand asked her as soon as they met to confirm she was definitely 16, saying, "I don't give a fuck if you're 12. I need to know where I stand legally." Ooh, that's that's no bueno. Yikes, guys. During the earliest stages of their relationship, Alice says Brand was very charming and very attentive, sending her verbose messages. She remembers feeling giddy and special. Before the first time they had sex, Alice says she told him she was a virgin and claims he was instantly aroused. He was like, "Oh my god, my baby," and picked me up and cradled me in his arms like a child and was stroking my hair. He's like, "You're like my little dolly." She says he became preoccupied with her being innocent and pure. I mean, the claims here are so specific, it's not very vague, you know. This is a very detailed account. Does that mean it's true? Not necessarily, but I mean, maybe it came from somewhere. She claims that there was a large mirror on the wall, and she remembers during sex he raised his arm above his head like this power stance, like he was conquering something. Over the following weeks, Brand referred to her as the child, asked her to read the book Lolita, and coached her on what to say to her parents when he wanted to see her, Alice says. Although Alice was over the age of consent in the UK, she and a family member who has also spoken to the Sunday Times to corroborate her story both describe Brand's behavior as grooming. Alice says he suggested how she could deceive her parents into allowing her to visit him, and claims that he gave her scripts on how to lie to them. She also alleges that he told her not to trust her friends and that they would all be looking to make money from it if she revealed she was seeing him. It was isolating, she says. Russell engaged in engaged in the behaviors of a groomer looking back, and I didn't even know what that was then or what that looked like, she says. Alice recalls that Brand told her never to send him sexual images, and she believed this was because of her age. Alice accuses Brand of being controlling. She says that he once ran a bath for her and demanded that she stay in it while he went out for about an hour. Another time, Alice alleges that Brand removed the condom during sex without her knowing. When he invited her over on his 31st birthday, Alice's mother insisted on driving her to emphasize to him that this was a girl with loving parents. When Alice's mother went to meet Brand at the doorstep, Alice says that he blocked the door and leaned down and kissed my mother on the mouth. She says that afterwards her mother was very, very upset at Brand's behavior and pleaded with Alice to come home with her, but Alice chose to stay. Dude, she's a 16-year-old girl. This is your child. You can make decisions. Towards the end of the relationship, Alice says that Brand SA'd her. I was sat up in the bed up against the headboard. It was just choking me and I couldn't breathe, and I was pushing him away and he wasn't backing off at all. She says I ended up having to punch him really hard in the stomach to get him off. I was crying and he said, "Oh, I only wanted to see her mascara run anyway." Then I knew at that point that he didn't care about hurting me physically or emotionally. It shouldn't take you having to punch someone and to wind them to get them off you. It shouldn't be a physical fight. As Alice lay on one side of the bed after the attack, she alleges that he climbed on top of her, held open her mouth, and drooled in it. I was gagging and trying to fight him off me, but he's lying on top of me, so I can't, she alleges. My limbs are trapped underneath, and I just thought, why are you doing this? There can't even be any gratification in this. And then he held my mouth shut and made me swallow it, so I was just gagging and crying. I mean, this is pretty horrible if true. I mean, let's just take away the fact that she's 16, right? Still bad. Still definitely bad. But she's a 16-year-old girl, dude. She's half your age. Not even just half your age. She's 16. She's in high school? Like, you're 31? What are you doing? The relationship ended when Brand invited her over one day, and she arrived to find another woman in his bed. I was so angry, and I said to him, "Why would you do this to me? This is so humiliating." Alice has decided to speak out because she now believes that she was too young to be able to consent to a relationship with an adult man, and that the law should be changed to protect those under 18. My mom still feels like she failed me in some way allowing this to happen, but she had no recourse at all, she says. It shouldn't be legal for a 16-year-old to have a relationship with a man in their 30s. There should be something in place to protect children. I agree with that. That seems good. I think that would be a nice law. Definitely. Prevent child grooming. She also wants the entertainment industry to change. For many years, Brand has been applauded for his jokes describing how he has manipulated women for sex. I think he was very skillful in the start of making his identity be, "I'm the womanizer, I'm a sex addict, I'm inappropriate, but it's all just a joke, it's funny," Alice claims. It's a smokescreen for a lot of his dark behavior. We felt we were working as a pimp for him. This is the next section title, and I think this is going to get into his TV career mostly so. We've started with this 16-year-old that he supposedly met in a shopping center in a mall. Now we're going to get to people I guess he worked with. That's what this part of the article is going to be about. During the early years of Brand's TV career as a Channel 4 presenter, there were repeated incidents which raised questions about his interactions with young women while working for them. TV researchers and runners who worked on Channel 4 shows during this period alleged that Brand would get staff to approach young female audience members so he could meet them after filming. So this is supposedly coming from showrunners. I wish they would just say their names so that would make it more credible. I wish that there was just that out there. Two former crew members working on Big Brother's E-Forum, a live spin-off debate show presented by Brand that would become Big Brother's Big Mouth, separately claimed that this made them feel like they were working as a pimp for Brand. One says she remembers women calling her in tears after feeling they had been treated poorly by Brand. Another claims there were occasions she had to collect Brand from a hotel room and he appeared in his underwear and suggested having a quickie, and she could not tell if he was joking or not. She says Brand's behavior was widely discussed by those working on the TV set. Okay, listen, if he was very sexual, if he was asking people for quickies, I mean, if he's asking them, at the very least, he's asking for consent, right? The real question is, was he doing stuff to people without consent? That's the real question here. Because we kind of know at this point, like, the guy was a fucking freak back in the day, right? But whether there was misconduct in regards to consent is I think, what really matters here. One runner, Rachel, who was 24 at the time, so we do have a name here, says she once walked into Brand's dressing room and claims he flashed himself at her. She alleges that Brand insinuated that she could give him oral. She was shocked and refused. She felt unable to tell anyone about what happened and was worried that if she complained, she would lose her job. She says Brand continued to pursue her, and sometime after he asked her to visit his flat. When she arrived, they kissed and had sex. Okay, so she says she felt uncomfortable and unable to tell anyone what happened because she thought she would lose her job, but then Brand continued to pursue her, and she goes to his apartment and has sex with him. It's not even an essay, it says sex. That would be like consensual, no? Like she has a problem with him then, but then she goes to his apartment? What? They begin a relationship, but she alleges he told her to keep it a complete secret. She claims Brand told her he had written it into his contract that he wasn't allowed to have any sexual contact with anyone working on Big Brother. Endemol says they have reviewed the contract and Brand did not have a clause pertaining to sexual relationships. I mean, unless this girl was underage, which if she's working at a TV station, I assume she's not. What is the problem with this one? I really don't see like she. Okay, so he showed her his dick unprompted, which which is bad. But then she liked it and she decided to go to his she decided to go to his apartment. Like, dude. A researcher claims Brand's behavior while working on eForum and Big Brother's Big Mouth was reported to production managers at Endemol, the company commissioned by Channel 4 to produce the shows. They alleged that they complained about Brand pursuing audience members, but claims their concerns were dismissed. The researcher remembers being told by a talent manager, "It's what happens with the talent. Boys will be boys. It's not a big deal." I mean, okay, I feel like if he's pursuing people for sex and it's a consensual relationship, I don't really see a problem. Like, I don't really care. Like, maybe it's against company policy, but if it's consensual and both parties are adults and down, I don't see a problem with that. If one's underage or if there's some kind of coercion or he's forcing someone, that's another story, okay? But is this just to paint a broader image about his sex addiction? That could be the case, I guess. A spokesperson for Banijay UK, bought Endemol in 2020, said it had reviewed files and correspondence. It could find no record of issues about Brand being formally raised or discussed. It said, "We take our duty of care to our cast, crew, and staff extremely seriously. While the legacy company, Endemol, did have a code of conduct, support policies, and escalation procedures in place during the period in question, they were not as robust as our current processes. We are sorry these women did not feel supported and protected while working on these productions, and in light of these serious allegations, encourage them to contact us in confidence. Brand would regularly have sex with women he met at events." I don't really see a problem with that. Two who went back to his home on separate occasions claimed he became threatening and shouted at them when they refused to have intercourse with him. One left his home in tears. Okay, well that is, I mean, you know, that's not good. That's definitely not good. Okay, well there's actually something substantive. Helen Berger, who worked as Brand's personal assistant in 2006, says that during her interview for the job, she told one of his managers that she had a girlfriend. The manager later told her being gay was seen as a plus for the job. She believes the manager wanted to make sure that I would be safe. He just wanted a purely platonic situation. Berger says that Brand was a narcissist and would often only wear underwear while she worked. She also remembers Brand openly showing his friends intimate pictures of women. E-Town, for the festival and in a bar, she saw Brand showing pictures like these to friends. She says, "I leaned in. As he's going through these pictures, he gets to a picture of somebody I knew. It did something to me. It made me feel really sick to my stomach. These are women who aren't expecting to be shown to the dude's friends." Liliana Dalla Piana, a highly experienced celebrity assistant who worked for Brand between 2007 and 2008, says that she believes she was hired by his managers because she was nearer to his mother's age than his. She recalls that at her interview, Brand said that he likes to walk around with nothing on, or sometimes just a long caftan with nothing underneath. Dalla Piana remembers replying, "I've got a son who's older than you. I've seen it all." Brand would go on to be hired by the BBC, first on BBC 6 Music in April 2006, before he was moved to Radio 2 that November. He often courted controversy, culminating in the Saxgate scandal. In October 2008, Brand and his co-presenter Jonathan Ross made prank calls to the actor Andrew Sachs, who had played Manuel in Fawlty Towers, leaving a lewd message on his answer phone. Brand hinted at a relationship with Sachs' granddaughter, Georgiana Bailey, prompting Ross to declare, "He your granddaughter," which Sachs had not known about. When the scandal emerged, Gordon Brown, then the Prime Minister, criticized the broadcast, and both Brand and the station's controller Leslie Douglas resigned from the BBC, which was fined $150,000 by Ofcom. The BBC admitted that editorial standards had been broken. I mean, I guess that sucks, but was there a non-consensual interaction going on here? Like, he effed your granddaughter. Was this person like 15 years old, 16 years old, or was she above the age of 18? In which case, like, what is it? Like, are we just on him for being raunchy on TV 13 years ago? Like, I mean, that is shitty. Leaving a lewd message on his answer phone. Brand hinted at a relationship. He effed your granddaughter, which Sachs had not known about when the scandal emerged. I mean, I don't know. Am I missing something here? You guys can explain to me. It's unprofessional, but I guess I'm not really expecting Brand to be professional. And I also feel like that's not that big of a deal. What I think is a big deal is S.A., okay? R-A-P-E. He's grabbing at my underwear. I'm telling him to get off. Following the scandal, Brand moved to Los Angeles, where he focused on a Hollywood film career and a new American TV show. He remained in LA after his marriage to Perry failed in 2012. At a party one night, he met Nadia, a businesswoman who was then in her 30s. They exchanged phone numbers, and Brand later got in touch, and they began texting and talking on the phone. She said they met up in June 2012 at his house in LA and went on to have consensual sex, but she was unsettled by his glazed over look. So we're just like talking about him having a weird look now. He does this thing when he glazes over. I don't know what's going on in his head, she says. It was fine, but it was a weird first-time experience with someone when you're having sex with them for the first time. During one text exchange, Brand suggested that Nadia bring a friend. Then they met again in the early hours of the morning on July 1st when she arrived at his house after he had pleaded with her to come over. Okay, so far as bringing a friend, like, I don't know, people have threesomes. I don't care. As far as like having a weird glazed over look, I mean, I guess that's weird, but do I need to know that? Probably not. When I walked in, the door was unlocked and I just walked in, Nadia says. He comes running out of the bedroom naked, and I'm kind of taken aback. I've got a bag on my shoulder, a little dress, and a coat on top. Nadia says Brand took her to a wall and kissed her and made a comment, something along the lines of, "I'll keep you safe." He then told her that a friend was already in in the bedroom and that he wanted her to join them, according to Nadia. I'm like, no, that's not happening. I don't care. That's not happening. We're not doing that. I tried to get away from him and I slipped away from the wall. And then I went to another wall that had a painting on it. And my bag actually got stuck underneath it and it's still on my arm. And at this point, he's grabbing at my underwear, pulling it to one side. Nadia alleges that she told Brand to get off her and that she wanted to leave, but he carried on. I'm stuck underneath the painting and he's pushing up against me. She says, he's a lot taller than me and he has that glazed look in his eye again. And I can't move. And I told him, get off, get off. Nadia claims that Brand pushed her up against the wall and RAPE'd her. So this is where the actual allegation takes place, which is why I guess I wish that we didn't have all this fluff. I mean, maybe it's just to build a narrative, right? It's to build a story, which makes sense, undoubtedly, and I understand that. But I think that when you include a few other random details, like just that he was very promiscuous and stuff like that, I think it can undermine the allegations to the audience, which obviously Brand's fans probably don't want to believe this anyway. And you could probably have him dead to rights, and a lot of them wouldn't believe this anyway. But regardless, I think it's important to make things as airtight as possible, okay? And then he blocks the door that I've come into because he doesn't want me going, Nadia says. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. You need to get away from me. And he's like, let's calm down. Nadia says that Brand eventually stepped away from the door he had been blocking after Nadia told him she just wanted to use the bathroom. I ran out and I jumped in my car. Thank God I didn't park in his driveway and I booked it out of there, she says. That was it. I sat on the road for a little longer. I was in a daze. At 3:29 a.m., Brand sent Nadia a text message. He wrote, I'm sorry. That was crazy and selfish. I hope you can forgive me. I know you're a lovely person. X. He tried phoning her at 3:51 a.m., but the call went unanswered. So this isn't the real text. It's not a real screenshot. This is just, I guess, the messages that apparently were sent. You scared the shit out of me. You're right. I am a lovely person. And for you to take advantage of me like that is unexpected. You have a problem. You need help. It's dangerous that you think you can get your own way all the time. Do you know how scary you are when that glazed look comes over you? When a girl says no, it means no. Do I have to go and get myself tested? Last time you asked me condom or no condom. When I say condom, that doesn't mean it's optional. You don't have the best reputation. I pride myself on being safe and try to make the right decisions. Obviously, this was a bad one. I'm so disappointed. This spelling error makes me think maybe this is, you know, a real message. I'm very sorry. You don't need to get tested. I will make this up to you somehow with love. I assume he meant here, and kindness. Not my original idea, which was more sex. You've been lovely to me and I'm embarrassed by my behavior. Sorry, X. Will you ever forgive me? Seems like he did something wrong from that message. Nadia says she was up most of the night. She did not reply to Brand's text until 10:59 a.m. She wrote that he had taken advantage of her and scared the shit out of me. She wrote in her text to Brand, do you know how scary you are when that glazed look comes over? When a girl says no, it means no. Do I have to go and get myself tested? The US phone number that Brand used to send the messages has been verified by multiple sources. Nadia, meanwhile, had told a close friend what had happened and she took her to the Treatment Center, RTC, at UCLA Santa Monica Medical Center that same day. She has shared a full copy of her treatment records, which state that she had provided her underwear and other samples as evidence, which were frozen. An officer from the LA Police Department was alerted by the center, according to the notes, but she chose not to make a police report, saying to the center she didn't think my words would mean anything up against his. Why? Just file the report, bro. Come on. The note also states that she was worried that if her assailant's name is somehow released, then her name will be dragged through the dirt. I mean, that's a fair concern. I understand being scared of that, but man, police report, really wish we got that. But the fact that there was a record, that there was a test done, she was taken to a treatment center and apparently they preserved some samples, that's very interesting. Nadia had therapy at the clinic for the following 5 months. During her therapy sessions, records show that Nadia was contemplating criminal or civil proceedings, but ultimately deciding against it. However, she wrote Brand a letter hoping to regain some of her power in the process, her note said, and she says she sent it to his house. In the letter, she asked, do you know what you put me through, my body through? You scared the shit out of me on July 1st. I thought in any situation I would be strong enough to fight someone off. You completely broke me down. So here we have a picture of him. It says Brand is accused of RAPE on July 1st, 2012. 6 weeks later, he performed at the Olympics closing ceremony in London. So I guess this is him doing a little performance. I was fighting and screaming so hard. Brand kept building his career in America. The following year, another woman claimed she was a victim of an essay at Brand's house. Phoebe, who was in her 20s, says she met Brand at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting before they started working together, and that she had a brief sexual relationship with him, which had ended by the time of the alleged attack in early 2013. Phoebe says the team working on a project with Brand at the time worked from different locations, including from his property in West Hollywood. She was at his house when she realized that a number of his staff had gone out and they were alone. She describes being trapped in a bedroom and realizing that Brand wanted to have sex with her. She says she can't remember whether he was naked or in his underwear, but that he ended up naked at some point and started chasing her. She claims he grabbed me and got me on the bed. She claims he tried to kiss her and remove her clothes as he pinned her down. Phoebe says, and I saw something come over his eyes. I swear to God, like black. His eyes had no more color. They were black like the devil. Like a different person literally entered his his body. So this is kind of the same description that this last woman said, which, I mean, according to the people writing this article, they didn't know each other. They're claiming that basically this weird look comes over him. Then he goes animal gorilla mode, so to speak. I was screaming and I was like, what are you doing? Stop, please. You're my friend. I love you. Please don't do this. I don't want to do this. I think he had his hands down my trousers, but I was fighting so hard. I was screaming so hard, hoping that I could get through somehow. She says, I don't know what the actual definition of SA is, but it feels like that. He didn't R-word me. She says she kept begging him to get off her, and eventually he relented, at which point she says he flipped and was super angry. Phoebe says Brand was shouting, F you, and you're fired, and she says she fled Brand's home in tears, stopping only to grab her shoes before running barefoot to her car. As she left, Phoebe says she passed a group of people who had arrived at the house for a meeting about the project. Years later, she says she met one of the people who had been in this group. She says he pulled me aside and he said to me, I have never forgiven myself for not running in that house to save you. I heard you screaming, and I didn't know what to do. We were all so scared of him, and I didn't do anything, and I'm sorry. The Times attempted to contact this person, but he did not respond. Phoebe, who told friends what happened to her, felt forced to return to work in the days afterwards, but she claims that Brand, after becoming aware of her allegation, cornered her and threatened her with legal action. Phoebe did not formally report the incident as she feared that her career would be affected. 3 separate sources confirmed that she had told them about her allegation at the time, while 2 more were also aware of it. A short time later, Brand left the US and moved back to the UK. It was then that serious allegations about his conduct behind closed doors first became public. In 2014, an ex-girlfriend, Jordan Martin, wrote about their relationship in a self-published book, K-Not, Entanglement with a Celebrity, in which she renames Brand Randall Grand and herself Dina. She declined to be interviewed for this investigation due to personal family circumstances, but it's confirmed that she stands by her account in the book and says that it is an accurate depiction of their relationship. Brand never challenged her on its content. Brand and Martin had a 6-month relationship from February 2007, during which they briefly lived together. In the book, Martin describes being SA'd by Brand and Brand being physically and emotionally abusive towards her. The alleged assault occurred at the Lowry Hotel in Manchester. He describes how Brand became angry when she found out she had spoken to an ex-boyfriend, snatching a phone from her, ripping the case apart, and pulling out the battery. Martin writes about how she then walked away from Brand and was standing at a sink in the bathroom when he came up behind her. In her book, she describes how Brand does not say a word. He stands so close to her, he slides his hand down the front of her low-hanging jeans. I'm not going to read that next part, but it's pretty graphic, you can imagine. He basically essays her. Martin writes about how she was not ready for this intrusion and did not find it sensual or pleasant. After that, Brand allegedly walked out of the room silently, leaving her feeling confused, uncomfortable, and a little stunned. She also describes how he once forced her to brush her teeth so hard her gums bled, so she would taste anonymous to him. Martin writes that Brand pushed boundaries, controlling other people to fulfill personal perversions for the sake of dominance or the sake of something. Alarming displays of aggression is the next section title. This is a long one, though. Maybe take a shower at this point if you guys are feeling a little dirty, because I'm feeling it's not going to get any better right now. Honestly, not confidence inspiring for Russell Brand. Do I know that he did it? Absolutely not. And I think that we should presume him to be innocent until proven guilty. Ultimately, that is very important. And I would like to hear more from Russell Brand in this situation, because so far we haven't really heard his side very much, and the response he did give was rather vague. So I'd like to hear more from him. But if what the journalist is saying is true, which is that there's 4 separate women who didn't know each other, who made basically the same claim about Russell and his behavior, he's kind of a nut, I am somewhat inclined to believe it. I am. Now, they could all be lying. That is possible. But I feel like with the more people you have that stack up that don't know each other, that say the same thing, possibility of all of them lying becomes increasingly less. Brand's attitude towards women became an open secret in radio and TV production, according to sources. Many felt the BBC should have been awake to the concerns about Brand's on-air behavior well before the Saxgate scandal. While hosting his BBC radio show on 6 Music, he and his co-host, Matt Morgan, would sometimes undress in the studio and encourage guests to do likewise. When contacted by the Times and Sunday Times, Morgan said, I stopped working with Russell Brand several years ago. During the time I worked with him, I was never aware of any allegations of serious sexual misconduct against him. I absolutely condemn all forms of mistreatment of women. Looking back on the time I spent working at the radio on BBC, I am regretful to learn that a show I was a part of made colleagues uncomfortable at times. In July 2008, Ofcom, the communications regulator, fined the BBC $17,500 for a serious breach of its code after finding that Brand's show on 6 Music had faked a competition winner. Why do I have to care about that? Like, I feel like that doesn't really matter. During other Radio 2 episodes, Brand made a series of remarks about the newsreader Andrea Simmons, describing her on air as erotic and a sex bomb, and telling listeners that he would like to go under the desk while she was reading the news. Several times after this, it's implied that Brand was forced to apologize by BBC production staff. In May 2007, Brand called Jimmy Savile, who suggested the pair could meet if Brand brought along a sister. Brand doesn't have a sister, so instead offered to bring a female employee, agreeing on Savile's podcast that she should be naked. I've got a personal assistant, he said, and part of her job description is that anyone I demand she greet, meet, massages, she has to do it. She's very attractive, Jimmy. This was 4 years before Savile's death and 5 years before details on the Jim Will Fix It presenter's crimes were exposed. And now Jimmy Savile, from my understanding, is this guy who you guys probably recognize. It emerged in late 2012 that Jimmy Savile, an English media personality who had died the previous year, sexually abused hundreds of people throughout his life, most of them children, but some as old as 75, and most of them female. So that's that guy that Brand was talking about and calling him on a show there. According to insiders who were working for BBC Radio at the time, complaints were made about Brand's behavior in the studios to Leslie Douglas, then the BBC's controller for Radio 2 and Radio 6 Music, but nothing appeared to be done as a result. In December 2007, another serious complaint was made by BBC staff to Douglas about Brand's behavior in the Radio 2 studio. Sources who were involved said the complaint was made after an alarming display of aggression and disrespect by Brand in the studio, which included Brand hurling objects across the studio in fits of rage and urinating in a bottle in full view in front of everyone. Brand had done this, the sources said, in front of production staff and guests, including a younger person who appeared to be a minor and had been sent to appear on Radio 2 by a charity. This alleged complaint and any others that had been made were not mentioned in the subsequent official reports into Saxgate. A spokesman for the BBC said it has clear expectations and policies around conduct at work and has taken the Jonathan Ross Radio 2 incident incredibly seriously. He said, "We hope that demonstrates that the BBC takes issues seriously and is prepared to act. Indeed, we would add that in addition to acting on the serious editorial breach at the time, the BBC has, over successive years, evolved its approach to how it manages talent and indeed how it deals with complaints or issues raised. We will always listen to people if they come forward with any concerns and any issue relating to any individual working at the BBC, past or present." Alice, who later worked at Channel 4, recalled a meeting in late 2013 or early 2014 during which Brand was pitched as a host of a show, but concerns about his behavior were flagged. The solution that was offered was that we would take the female staff off of the crew. Women that have worked hard to get into this industry now can't work in a particular show because of fear that they might be assaulted or harassed. I was in disbelief. Brand continued to be given opportunities by mainstream broadcasters in the UK, including on Channel 4. In 2019, he appeared in a celebrity edition of Bake Off. He baked biscuits inspired by the genitals of his wife, Laura. Female comedians have warned for years. For this investigation, journalists were in touch with dozens of comedians who have worked with Brand. A female comedian said that in the early 2000s, when they gigged together, Brand chased her around backstage and bit her on the face despite her making clear she was uncomfortable. Whenever he saw me, he would grab me and bite my face, and it was coupled up with this weird, horrible energy, she recalls. I said to him, "I don't like this," and he still did it so much before he stopped. It was him crossing boundaries. She also witnessed his behavior at parties. He was like the Predator from the 1987 sci-fi film. He would show up and you'd see him scan the room, who he hadn't slept with, who he was going to sleep with. He should never have got to Hollywood. His behavior should have stopped that, but he was able to become a Hollywood star and do so well out of it. I mean, the thing is, okay, she witnessed his behavior at parties. He was trying to sleep with girls, like people try to sleep with girls. I don't really care about that. I don't care if he likes to okay, I don't care if he has a sex addiction. What I care about is if he does something horrible. And there are definitely allegations of horrible, horrible behavior in this article, but I'm just saying, like, is she saying that as a result of him, like, being a guy who likes to sleep with girls, he shouldn't be allowed to go to Hollywood? Or is she saying that because of predatory, genuine predatory behavior? Daniel Sloss was the only comedian willing to speak on the record and using his real name. He says he first heard rumors about Brand's behavior on the comedy circuit more than 10 years ago. Sloss says that female comedians have set up online groups that they used to warn each other of comedians and others working in the comedy industry who they have had unpleasant experiences with, including predatory behavior. Sloss says, "I know for many, many years that women have been warning each other about Russell. I know there are comedians who have made references and jokes to Russell's alleged crimes and have either been asked or told not to do those jokes anymore." In late 2020, Alice, who's now happily married, contacted Brand's literary agent, Angarad Wood, the co-founder of Tavistock Wood, which is owned by the talent agency Curtis Brown. Alice says that she told Brand's representatives what he did to her when she was 16 because she hoped he had changed. She wanted an apology and at the very least for them to know the type of man they were representing. She says she was told Brand was away at a wellness retreat, but that she would get a response. Alice eventually did hear back from a lawyer acting for Brand, who denied her allegations. It was very aggressive, said very clearly I was after money, and implied that it was almost blackmail what I was doing, she says. "I've never mentioned money. The lawyer was the only person that's ever mentioned money." She replied to Brand's lawyer, emphasizing that she was sharing the truth and never asked for money. "I've spent too long recovering from these acts to have them dismissed or to be intimidated into invalidating my own experience," she wrote, adding, "To even imply that there is a quantifiable amount that would compensate or SA is frankly insulting. It would take his representatives almost 3 years to say they believed Alice. After we contacted them last week, Brand was suddenly removed from the websites of Curtis Brown and Tavistock Wood." The latter then said, "Russell Brand categorically and vehemently denied the allegations made in 2020, but we now believe we were horribly misled by him. Tavistock Wood has terminated all professional ties to Brand." And just to reiterate, Tavistock Wood, for those who don't know, seems to be a talent agency. I mean, you go on their website and it looks like they represent some famous people. I feel like I just saw famous people. Yeah, these are all famous people. people. Look at these people. I guess they represent Aaron Gill, Alessandra, whoever that is. I wish I could just rank them by how famous they are so I could instantly tell like who is famous that works for them. But I guess they represent a bunch of famous people, a bunch of you know, entertainers, actors, people like that. And they immediately dropped Brand as soon as they heard about this stuff. Now that could be a PR move, but it's interesting that they specifically said that they were misled, horribly misled. Instead of just saying, you know, we're dropping him because of these allegations, they say we're misled. I'm curious what they mean by that. Now, ultimately, with the Russell Brand situation, can we 1000% know what happened here? Absolutely not, because we weren't there. From that perspective, I think a presumption of innocence is very important. According to Russell Brand and his fans, there's a coordination of timing basically here where there's a bunch of people trying to smear him, and it's as a result of the truths he spreads, of the stuff he talks about, right? That's the claim. Meanwhile, the claim from other people is like, well, he does spread misinformation, but also our main issue with him is not that. Our main issue is this essay stuff. Ultimately, I don't know how I feel about this. You know, I don't like to be a total fence sitter on this stuff, but this is literally one of those situations where like you have to presume he's innocent until proven guilty, at least in a court of law. As far as my personal opinion, I think you guys can tell based on my reaction to this information and the fact that there were apparently 4 different independent women that said this, that doesn't exactly bode well for this dude's reputation. And I really wish that in his response he was more specific about what happened.
Whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these 2 mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack. Now, I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations.
I mean, this is basically his take. It's like it's a coordinated media attack against me. You guys remember those people on YouTube who used to do like the what do their like body movements mean? Like what does his hand movements mean? Is he lying? What do his eyes say? I have no idea about any of that stuff. I have no idea if he's telling the truth or not. Here, based on the comment section, we have people basically, you know, all supporting him. We have hold your head up, square your shoulders, and fight back, Russell. We're with you. We stand with you, Russell. We know this is a political hit. I worry how they have put a video out attacking you already without a trial or anything. Trying to destroy a man without taking it to court is crazy. We knew this was coming. Every strong voice of truth gets silenced like this. We stand with you, Russell. Now, I don't think that these people are malicious or anything, but I will say they're definitely preconceived to think that Russell is telling the truth. And I feel like it would do them good to at least read the article. Do I expect them to? No, but at least for my audience, I'm glad that I was able to go through it and, you know, you guys can be a little more informed about what's going on here. Now, I will say as one final note on this video, I'm kind of upset at the way that YouTube has responded to this because YouTube decided to demonetize his channel, okay? And the thing about this is like, we don't even know if he's guilty in a court of law. He could be, he could not be, but I feel like the idea that we should just instantly demonetize the channel of someone who has an allegation made against them that's unproven in a court of law, is that really a standard we want to uphold? Like, should YouTube be in a position to demonetize people just because an allegation is made against them? Because what happens when there's a false allegation that gets a bunch of traction? Is YouTube going to demonetize that person as well? Is YouTube going to take down their channel? Well, then it's a false allegation and YouTube decided to him over for nothing. And I'm not saying that necessarily the Russell Brand stuff is a false allegation, but in a court of law, it's unproven. And so I feel like I don't really want YouTube to act in this scenario unless it is proven that he's 100% guilty. You know, that's a horrible precedent to set as far as censorship. Now, like the Daily Beast could publish an article on anyone claiming that X, Y, and Z happened. And then what? Is YouTube just going to demonetize their channel right away? And if anything, this also gives credence to what Russell Brand is saying, where he's saying like the Matrix is coming for me. This is a coordinated attack. As soon as these articles come out, YouTube demonetizes his channel, dude. Like, if advertisers specifically don't want to be involved in his channel, like, obviously brand deals just won't go there. Maybe they're worried that brands would be upset if they found out that, like, Coca-Cola ads were on Russell Brand's channel, but I feel like YouTube still shouldn't be the arbiter of deciding who can be monetized or not based on unproven allegations that, I mean, they could very well be true, but they haven't been proven in a court of law. So, yeah. Stupid, man. I hate YouTube. Yo, what's up, buddy? How's it going?
What's going? What's up?
You heard all this Russell Brand stuff going on?
Yeah, I have.
Have you looked into it at all?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Like on stream?
Yep.
What's your conclusion?
Seems pretty bad for Russell Brand.
You think he's guilty? I haven't seen the documentary yet.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. What exactly is the accusation?
It's multiple low-tier assaults with multiple people, multiple confirmations of like just lots of bad behavior. Like, yeah, pretty bad.
Gotcha. The thing I found though was interesting, and I'm not saying he's guilty, I'm not making a value judgment here, but whenever someone, instead of actually addressing them point by point, comes out and says this is like a culture war Matrix coming for me type thing, I get really nervous. as to like, oh, maybe it is real. Because instead of addressing it, like he made a response, instead of being like point by point, this is fake, and this is why, instead of bringing out, I don't know, I guess a lot of it was a long time ago, so maybe screenshots aren't pertinent, but just telling the story, right? Instead of doing that, it's like, they're coming for me as soon as I talk about what they don't want you to know. It's like,
yeah,
really?
I feel like, yeah, wrapping that all together is like really weird. It feels weird. I try not to evaluate like, are you guilty or innocent regardless, but it does make you look kind of bad when you do that.
Yeah, well, that's just kind of my. I just wish he would give an actual response. I don't think he will, if I had to guess.
Here's like the weird thing, and I don't know if there's like some people that are more familiar with British stuff that can help me, but I think that I think that in the I know this in the UK, libel and defamation laws are way more brutal. They support the people that are making the claims way more than the people that are defending against them. Like, it's insane. Like, if you print a mistruth about somebody, even if you thought you were correct, if you get something wrong, they can sue you for defamation. So
they can ruin you. I know this has happened with multiple YouTubers, like big YouTubers from over there, commentary channels. Like, they just won't talk about big people because if you don't have them dead to rights 1000%, you can't even like posit like a theory about them.
Yeah,
you can get fucked for that.
So something that would be interesting is if they were to publish all of this, like, it feels like this is right for Brand to go after them in court. But the scary thing is that if Brand goes after them in court and loses, I mean, like, they're basically proving then that, like, yeah, you're probably like, you tried to sue them for defamation, you lost what they probably said was true, right? That's that's really
and now it's the whole
scary.
culture war thing where Ian Miles Chung and all of them are like on Twitter saying like, oh, I have my own personal story about this did this and this did that. Like, it's turning into everyone's like posting their personal experiences.
Yeah, there was some conservative BBC program or some conservative news network where some woman came out and called Brand a hero before she even knew what the allegations were. Like, it was insane. She hadn't even read them.
I saw a ton of ultra cringe tweets from people where they were like, when I was in high school, my friend was falsely accused. And it's like this whole diatribe, and then the conclusion to this like tweet with like 30,000 likes is like, that's why I know Russell Brand is innocent, because I've seen this happen before. It's like, are you even looking into any specifics? I feel like almost nobody's talking about the specifics of what's going on here.
Yeah, the article.
I will
probably
say,
like a 20-minute read. Like, at the very least, you should have to read the article. Yeah.
So there's that. There's like a full doc, right? It's like a documentary.
Oh, I haven't seen the documentary yet. I just read the full article though. Does the documentary have different information? I like the article because
I don't know.
The article is like, here's the facts, here's the information, boom, boom, boom. I get annoyed watching like documentaries that have like spooky music and actor recreations and stuff, and I'm like, I don't need you to sell this to me. Like, just like give me what you have, you know. But maybe the documentary has other information in it. But yeah,
fair enough. Shout out YouTube Video SAS. We love the spooky music. I will say YouTube demonetized his channel now, like right away. Is that not a little worrying?
Listen, this is my issue, okay? I think if you do something bad in one area, I think that you should be punished in that area. I don't think anything should carry over to anything at all. And I don't know why we would ever let like social media platforms enforce like allegations, or it's just such a horrible precedent. It's so bad. Like, let's say Russell Brand gets demonetized because of this, right? Let's say like 5 people come out and accuse, like me of or something, and let's say YouTube doesn't demonetize me. Does that mean that I'm innocent and Russell Brand is guilty because YouTube said so?
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, why should they have any say in these allegations? Why should they even act? Like, as of now, in the court of law, they are allegations. I feel like for the most part, the only reason that YouTube should act would be if there's like a legal judgment against someone, like a conviction.
Well, and even at that, I don't think so. Unless they put in their TOS, we don't want like convicted felons or whatever on our platform, in which case, fine. But like,
well, if it's, let's say, someone that, I mean, if it's someone who's smuggling drugs, I don't know, maybe that's a different thing. But let's say it's someone who, like Russell Brand, I mean, let's say he was meeting fans or something and doing stuff to them, right? Like, maybe that was their concern as far as like liability or something. Like, maybe he has a YouTube show, he meets people through YouTube, and then he RPEs them, let's say, is what they think. And then maybe that turns into like a bigger thing later on, because it's like, well, YouTube allowed him even after the allegations came out. Maybe that's why.
Like, if he's doing it through like YouTube DMs, which I don't even know if that phrase
which don't exist, doesn't exist,
then it's like, fuck
that's
it.
The
like,
thing.
Yeah, this has always been like my stance too. When like people will try to say like, hey, I want to report this guy for harassment, and it's like, okay, well, what did he say? And it's like, well, in this other Discord server, and it's like, listen, bro, I'm not going to be the arbiter of what goes on outside of my platforms unless there's like an exceptionally crazy circumstance. Like people can do other things on other platforms and go get banned there, but I'm not going to be because now I've become like a police investigative body where I'm trying to ascertain the validity of allegations made in areas that I don't even have direct knowledge of. Like, why the fuck would I want to assume that role? It's so much responsibility. And then if I get something right or wrong, it's like, okay, dude, that's just a nightmare. Yeah.
I think it opens them up to more liability the further that they go with this as well, because like people are always going to be able to call out inconsistencies.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lawsuit that was filed not that long ago against this YouTuber named Onision. And the claim is that it was a lawsuit against Onision and YouTube at the same time, and Google actually, because Google is a parent company. And the allegation is that YouTube allowed and was complicit in Onision grooming children over the internet. And the reasoning why is that they just didn't delete his channel, right? Keep in mind, there's never been any criminal charges against Onision. He's never been to court for this. He went to civil court once over something else. Like, so this has never happened. And like, I feel bad for these girls if they're telling the truth, like obviously, but at the same time, to hold YouTube liable, and I don't think that lawsuit's going anywhere as a result, because I think under Section 230 would be completely ridiculous. But realistically, I think if YouTube decides to enforce this rule, then like with certain people, then they open themselves up to a lawsuit in other regards, right? And they're not going to make a statement, I would guess, about why they deleted him, and that's the reason they don't make the statement is because then they have to show their hand, explain themselves, reveal intention, and then people can really get them down on like inconsistency here, inconsistency there.
Yeah, a lot of people, or a few people on my kick chat are saying that Russell Brand's YouTube channel was demonetized weeks or months ago, and it doesn't have anything to do with this. I don't know if that's true or not. But...
Is that real? Everyone's talking about how it just happened. Is that real?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So I don't know. This guy on my kick chat keeps saying, I think there were two people saying other, but I haven't heard that anywhere else. I thought it was in relationship to this. So.
Yeah, so I don't know what that guy was talking about in chat. Maybe that is real, but every single article I found, which I mean, not saying they're all necessarily telling the truth, but they're all saying that he was demonetized following the assault allegations. So my guess would be it's because of that. This isn't the first time they've done stuff like this either. Like when EDP was caught in his sting years ago, they deleted his channel. No criminal conviction, but they just got rid of him. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like kind of a scary precedent. I really don't want YouTube to be involved, but it seems like they're cracking down on stuff even more now. I mean, Fresh and Fit is demonetized recently. Obviously, they were ramping things up, but they were allowed to exist on YouTube pretty much undeterred for, 3 years or something, making an ungodly amount of money. And now they're demonetized. So kind of a worrying, I don't know, time.
I've got a lot of people on a lot of my chats saying that he got like demonetized for COVID misinformation stuff. Someone's saying he was demonetized for COVID, but it seems like he was reinstated. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know. You know, like I said.
So I do see an article from IMDb saying that he was a decent amount of time. Let me see, how long ago was this? Okay, this is in September of 2022. It looks like Russell Brand quits YouTube after video deleted for COVID misinfo. So it looks like that happened, and then maybe he got demonetized, and then he got back in the partner program.
Maybe, yeah. YouTube has apparently made a statement that it had suspended monetization on Brand's channel for violating its creator responsibility policy. The creator's off-platform behavior harms other users, employees, or ecosystem. We take action to protect community, the online platform said. So it seems like they did demonetize him in response to these allegations. Interesting.
I didn't even know he was on this whole like Alex Jones kind of arc.
Really?
Somebody informed me that his show, somebody described his show to me as InfoWars Light. I didn't realize is that what he does? What does he do?
No, I don't even know why I call it light. He's British. Yeah, he's been British Alex Jones for a couple years now, at least. Yeah, he just does. It's every single conspiracy that he believes in, all of them. Like if you were to start talking to him about like today the clouds were weird, he would say it's probably because we faked going into the moon landings, that we can install COVID machines so that China can give us diseases, so that George Soros and the IMF can make us eat insects after the vaccines are forced down our throat from Bill Gates making money off of BlackRock. Like it's every single Brand believes in every single conspiracy theory, literally every single one.
But that's weird to me because he was literally at the top of like Hollywood a few years ago. I mean, he was in movies with Vince Vaughn.
But now he's
a part of the Matrix.
He was, but yeah, he's basically he's like, imagine having like HIV in your brain where you have no immune system and every single opportunistic infection takes over. That's literally Brand on conspiracy theories. Every single one.
Do you think he believes believes in all of it?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, if he doesn't, he does a good job at convincing people he does. He's been on Joe Rogan and every other program talking about him.
So yeah, ultimately, kind of an inconclusive situation. The only conclusion you can really draw as far as a legal question is innocent until proven guilty. As far as what I think happened, I think there could be some truth to it, but I'm not 100%. You know, I could be shown evidence to the contrary, but I just wish he would provide that. Doesn't seem like he wants to do that right now. Yeah, thanks for watching. And if you liked this video, consider becoming a member. For $5 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts, unreleased videos, and the members-only Minecraft server. Thanks so much to all of my YouTube members who fund my content.